This time we'll review next team from the East Division, and New York Rangers was one of the top teams 5-6 years ago, but then 3 years ago they slumped big time and dropped the playoff spots, and that has been a more rebuilding since then for this New York team. Tommy, you have a New Jersey on, and I was of course a bit disappointed that the previous video that we did, you had a shirt on, and that wasn't any kind of a team shirt. So why any fans should wear New York Rangers jersey this season?
First of all, this is not a new jersey. This is really old jersey, but but anyway, they have a really good team in a way of in the future at least. So they have a lot of young players coming through. Of course, their rebuild is still on the way somehow. They've been drafting really high in the past two drafts, as we know. So they got second overall and the first overall, which always helps, you know, in the long run, but also in this case, probably in the shorter run as well. Of course, a little bit surprising that the simulations put Rangers over Islanders and Penguins. But when you take a look at the players and their numbers, it's quite understandable, especially when offensively the Rangers team is really productive and they have great numbers there. Of course, the young guns need to step up now, and the key players need to perform their top level. They were 11th last season in the East, maybe somewhat of a disappointment despite their rebuilding process, but of course the team is really young and inexperienced in that. Rangers scored a lot of goals, which is proving that they have a very promising offense there. Defensively, a little bit shakiness. Henrik Lundqvist wasn't as good as he usually is, but they have adequate backup now since Henrik Lundqvist is gone. So let's see how the young guns perform, but how have we been doing in our performance regarding the Rangers?
There are a few categories where our predictions have been quite accurate. One is away games totals, where bettors have been winning over 1,000 during the last 3 seasons. And then also some other away games where we have been correct in money line bets 75%. So that has been also profitable. But one interesting topic here is the home game, let's say, distribution. So home game win percentage overall is 48 in Rangers. So pretty normal number for not so great team. But their first home game win percentage is under 40%. And especially interesting is that if there has been back-to-back games, so games that are played the next day from each other, and those games, home games, it's only 27% win probability for New York Rangers. So it looks like a very old team that cannot cope the second back-to-back game at all. But that's not the case, because there is not a single player in offense that is currently over 30, and in defense their top 4 players are under 26. Goaltenders are 24 and 25. So do you expect this kind of trend will continue next season, or will they be able to win more back-to-back games in Madison Square Garden?
Well, have you been to New York when you're under 30? So it might explain the back-to-back games difficulties after the first game. But yeah, it's a tough division, and I think all of the teams are capable of taking points from each other. So it might be something that Rangers can take advantage of, that possibly when the teams are quite evenly matched, the point total doesn't go that high. So you can reach the playoffs with a little bit less points. but you have to win the right games. So if there are these teams that are at the bottom all the time, you have to take the points. You can't sleep up like Rangers have obviously done in the back-to-backs, at least if the winning percentage was that low. But they do have all the potential to step up, and they if they find their best stride, it will be a very surprising team. And of course, it's extremely difficult to play against this sort of offense that boasts players that are potentially scoring almost 2 points per game, as we have in Artemy Panarin. So the simulations obviously think that Rangers would reach the playoffs and do pretty well. But how have we been doing against divisional rivals in our predictions, and how does it look for the Rangers?
Those games look pretty similar what we could expect for a team like Rangers. Good teams like let's say Washington, Boston, they have been able to win 30 to 40% of the games. And then teams like Buffalo, that has been a lower level team during the last 3 seasons. New York Rangers have been able to win 75% of the 8 games that they have meet. And that should be the case as well, that they need to win all the games from the, let's say, lower level team, because the New Jersey Devils, New York Islanders, Pittsburgh as well, those have been quite evenly matched pairings. So 45% win percentage so far, or 50%, 55%, and that doesn't give any chances for slipping games here and there, especially those back-to-back games at home. How about the roster? You mentioned that it's during the rebuild or full of upcoming youngsters. Who are the ones that we should mostly take a look?
Yeah, well, it's obvious, of course, the first draft pick of this summer, actually, Alexis Lafreniere. Extremely good player, of course, and caused a lot of havoc in the juniors. And his game should transfer quite easily to the NHL level. Of course, then we have Kaapo Kakko, the Finnish guy, second overall from last year. Had a little bit of trouble in adjusting to the smaller rink, to the pace of the NHL game, but he's again, well, actually he's almost 1.5 years older, more experience, had a long time to practice now. So I think he will be one guy to follow, and his production is definitely going up. Of course, in New York, the biggest change is Henrik Lundqvist leaving after 15 seasons with the team, but it is for the better for the Rangers. He was replaced already last season by Igor Shesterkin, the Russian goaltender. Played 12 games, won 10, faced a ton of shots. So basically, he won a couple of games on his own, pretty much. So Rangers are really well off between the pipes, even if Lundqvist left. The defense also, offensively, massive talent there. Adam Fox scored over 40 points. Tony DeAngelo scored over 50 points. So that's like pretty much the best defensive pairing offensively in the NHL. Then there is Jacob Trouba, who is a two-way guy, really good at that. Youngster Ryan Lindgren probably stepping up to take a little bit more defensive role. So they need to do a little bit better than last season defensively, but they do produce so much offense and support this young core of offensive players that Rangers will probably score a ton of goals. I already mentioned Artemy Panarin scored 95 points in 69 games last season. And Mika Zibanejad only played 57 games, but scored 75 points and 41 goals. So that's a duo that is almost impossible to hold. And then you add these guys who can score 50 points in a normal season, who there are a couple in the lineup. So it will be an extremely difficult team to play against defensively, because these guys can produce a lot of goals and a lot of scoring chances. So they are probably matching the the main opponents in their division really well offensively, but they have to work a little bit better defensively. How have we been doing with the season predictions of Rangers in the past 3 seasons?
3 years ago was basically the first time when Rangers dropped from the top of their own division or even top of the top places of the Eastern Conference, and we predicted them to go over 95.5% points, but they got only 77 and didn't even reach the playoffs. 2 years ago, our prediction was that they would go over 75 points and not reach playoffs, and they were over 75. They got 78 points and were basically exact number what we predicted as well. And then last year we predicted them to be 12th on the Eastern Conference, going barely under 87.5. They were 4th, 6th, 10th, 11th, so pretty much there what we predicted. Out of 70 games, 79 points. So with points per game, there could be chances that they would go over. It would be very close to call. So I think recently, last season and 2 years ago, we have been able to predict them pretty accurate since they started their rebuild. And now, how do you see, is the direction correct? Direction is maybe correct, but how steep is the curve?
Yeah, like probably found out already, I am somewhat of a fan of this the style of how Rangers have done the rebuild. It's like they didn't take a long time to actually bounce back from the from the worst ever performance, but it's a really interesting team, especially offensively. So many young players. Defense might be problematic a little bit. They have excellent goaltenders. I don't see a reason why they couldn't challenge any of the teams of this division. Of course, it needs a lot of work, and the young players do need to step up, and also the veteran players, or well, not even veteran players, but the key players need to keep their level. So, of course, a lot of things can go wrong, but I'm really excited about the Rangers' chances in this division. They are definitely challenging the old champions, Pittsburgh, even Boston for sure. Capitals is not getting any younger either, so the sky is the limit for this team, but we'll see if it's already this season or will it take a little bit more time.
What kind of odds bookmakers are providing for the divisional win? I don't think Stanley Cup maybe this time, but maybe a divisional win.
Yeah, for the division, Rangers was rated only 6th in line. So after Islanders, for example, and the Penguins that we had under them. So Rangers odds are plus 800. But like I said, this is a really, really competitive division. And those odds are quite low compared to other divisions. So it's a hard one to win, but everything is possible. I don't think they are that good to win the division yet, but I'm excited to wait for the total lines because I can imagine that they might be a bit underestimated by the odds makers in this regard.
Okay, that sounds like a good bet to follow, and if the line is low enough, then we would place our bet for over.
That we will do.
Very good. Next time we'll continue with the fourth team that is ranked to go to playoffs from the last spot in the Central Division.
Yeah.